to be showing you how I build a directory from start to finish using AI tools so that you can build one too. Right away, we're going to be starting with my prompt that I built in Claude. I always start ideating there, and I tell it that I'm going to be using Bolt.new, in this case, to build a minimum viable product, in this case, a directory. So that's how I got the prompt. I'll go into that in a further video later, but I just wanted to get started building. I just pressed enter and boom, as you can see, it's building the directory for us. What I'm building today, as it goes, is something called Traveler Assist. It's a directory for travel software and tools. So think of things like Booking.com, Scott's Cheap Flights, which is now called Going, trip planning softwares, all of these disparate tools that, okay, there we go. I mean, it literally just built it, and it did a pretty good job, I will say. So I don't even need to explain what this directory is because it got it pretty well in this prompt. First off, like, I don't know how long that took, but yeah, I mean, it kind of blows me away how quickly it can do something like that. Let's see, I need to take a second to digest all of this. So, modern tools for smarter travel. Cool. I forgot to mention the reason I decided to build this as my little demo for this YouTube video is because I have the domain travelerassist.com, which I think is a pretty good domain, and I can go ahead and connect this. I think I'm going to do a follow-up video, by the way, on how this directory actually performs. But now that we have the core directory, let's see what it says. It set it up. Would you like me to add more tools to the directory? So I'm going to tell it that I want to use Supabase for the tools. So hopefully it will take that cue. Yeah, it'll start setting up Supabase for storing and managing the tools, which is perfect. That's exactly what I wanted it to do. First, click connect to Supabase, which I will once it's done setting all these things up. But what this is doing now is Supabase, and I'm explaining this from a non-developer perspective who just figured out how to use all of these tools. Like, I'm not technical at all. What it is basically just the back end of the app. It's actually hosting the database, hence the name Supabase. This is where my library of tools will live, and it fetches that data to then display on this front end. So let's press connect to Supabase. And I'm going to pause it for a second while I log in. That it says configuration error, but yeah, it just finalized the setup and it connected to Supabase. And it even is allowing me to create this tools and categories table right within Supabase, which is crazy. This is a new feature in Bolt, and so that used to take so much longer to do. But I do notice now that all of my cards that I had here are gone. So I'm going to say what happened to the tool cards in the initial preview. Please put in some sample data and see what it says. Because I think what happened was it had sample data at first, and then it took that out because it knew I was using Supabase to actually populate it with real data. But before it does that, I just want to see again what it looks like. Let's apply these changes. Okay, cool, they're back now. And even though this is sample data, like Skyscanner, that is a real company. So now, basically what I have to do is figure out how I can now populate Supabase. I'm going to view the project with all of the real tools. So I think I'm going to go into table editor, just see how these are done. Okay, so they have unique IDs, the name of each tool, whatever category they're in, the benefit, starting price, what it's best for, description, features, URL, and then the time that they're created at. Wow, that is pretty cool. So now what I would do next is figure out a way for me to either scrape this type of data off of the internet, so using a web scraping tool, or I mean, that's the most reliable way to do it. But okay, actually, before I start filling out the directory with more tools, I realized I needed to create pages for each tool. So I'm going to say create a page template for each tool. I guess that's it. I think it should know what I'm saying. If it doesn't, sometimes what's good to add to your prompt there is ask me any questions for clarification to improve your answer. But it looks like it did understand my request. So create a route component for tool details, add a hook to fetch individual tool data, create components for the tool detail page layout. Okay, so it's going right now. Gosh, every time I use this, it does get better and better. You used to run into a lot more problems, especially when you're using kind of vague prompts like create a page template for each tool, but it's really understanding what I'm saying. Okay, so we did run into our first problem, attempt to fix it. So now it's going to try to resolve that problem itself. And hopefully, okay, cool. So let's see if it created the page. Nice, there we go. We have a page for each tool now. And it looks like it's giving pricing and then who it's best for, which is perfect. I didn't even ask for these features, at least that I remember, but it's just kind of assuming what is going to be best for the general audience of this tool, which again, the purposes of this video is more to just show you how quickly I could get a directory done. But had this been a real project that I wanted to pursue and wanted to dedicate a lot of time to, I would spend lots of time validating the idea and validating the audience for the idea, building a community around the audience, and then also planning out the product pretty well so that I could prompt it very, very intentionally. I'm impressed with what I've gotten so far out of this. Okay, so next we're going to probably do a categories pages. Create pages for the category to search and filter. So this is the actual directory function to make sure that you can actually search and filter through the different categories. So let's see how it does with this. And you can see in the prompt here, it says, I'll break this down into small focused components. That's definitely direction from the developers of Bolt.new, because previously I noticed that coding assistants would do a lot at once instead of breaking it out into different parts, and so the code would get kind of messy and it would break on itself. So I've noticed that by splitting it up into these sections, it's become a lot more effective at actually following through with the task. Cool, so let's see, view all. Nice, here we can, okay, free versus paid, that's awesome. I love this. I would use this myself, to be honest. It came up with nothing there because there were no free tools, I assume. I think I saw an error message on the left, but I clicked away. Okay, so let's view this. Okay, I guess the only categories here are flight. So let's see if this works. Skyscanner, even though I know it's right there. Cool, the search actually does work. Nice, that's pretty cool. So at this point, it's already technically a minimum viable product. Actually, one thing I do want to add right now is navigation. So add a navigation menu. I also want to check if it's mobile responsive, because if it's not, I can ask it to make it mobile responsive. So first let's add the navigation menu and then see if it's responsive for mobile. Cool. It's okay. That's actually not great because as you can see, as it gets smaller, it's stacking that text, which is not very clean. But if I expand the window, it looks okay. Let's see. Awesome. And then, well, let's do mobile. It's okay for mobile. I'm gonna say optimize this site for mobile. Oh, I hit the rate limit. Okay, well, that's a perfect segue into what I do next. By the way, this is no longer the paid plan, I realized, for Bolt. This is a free plan, so I got pretty far on Bolt using the free plan. What I do is I then take it out, I export it by downloading it, and then I grab Cursor, which is a second tool, and I open it. Let's see. First I have to open the zip folder. There we go. Let's rename this to Traveler Assist. This is a temporary file, so I'm just going to press open. It gets opened up here in Cursor, the entire Bolt project. And then from here, what I can do is, okay, it was Command L to open the chat over here. So basically now I can chat with Cursor, which is an AI coding assistant, and it does something pretty similar to what Bolt does, just with a little more granularity. So right now I'm going to do npm run dev to open up a development server. Okay, this always happens. There's something I didn't install that I need to install every time. Again, not a developer. Developers are probably cringing, but I don't know what's going on here. So I'm just gonna run this command that it tells me to run this locally. And as you can see in the terminal, it is installing the necessary packages. So I'm gonna do npm run dev again to open up that development server, command click, and then here we are. There is the site that we just had on Bolt.new, and so I can continue working on it here in Cursor. I'm going to just show you a preview of how I work here in Cursor really quickly before I then show you how I deploy it or publish it and connect my domain. So for that I'll be using Vercel, but first let's do something here in Cursor. So I'm going to say create a footer. Usually my prompts are a lot more specific, but in this case, again, this is just a demo. We're going, so it created an entirely new component, footer.tsx. So we're going to press accept, save it. I always do Command S to save it. And let's check out what it just did in the development server. Okay, so it didn't create. I thought it would display that, but you know, I think what we have to do is import it to our app component. So let's go to app.tsx and we're going to apply this to app.tsx, accept all, and then command save, and then now we should be able to see it. So I just closed this. Let's do npm run dev. We're going to do command click, and we should see, yep, there we go, there's the footer. Okay, one thing it did here was it just made a random footer, and that's interesting because it doesn't usually do that, but I realized I didn't do something that you should do in Cursor, which is command return when you do a request, because then it'll read the context of your code base and give you a result that actually makes sense. So what it did was it just created the most generic footer, and I can go in and edit that now, but it can be smarter than that. It can, I mean, this is AI, so it can read the context of all of your copy and know what exactly it should create for the footer. So I'm going to say update the footer with relevant links and titles based on the code base. Actually, I'm going to put it over here in the chat, and I'm going to tag footer, so @footer. Paste that back in, and then now I'm going to do command enter. That's where it will read the whole code base. So you can see it's reading all the files in this code base. And let's see, I'm going to look in through here. So now, let's see. Yeah, it actually has all of the information that's relevant. So I'm going to press apply, accept, save, and there we go. And that's actually relevant to, it actually has links too. So that's great. That's just an example of how I use Cursor at a glance. Okay, so there's a million more things I can do to this site, but honestly, it's bare bones, good enough to get published at this point. This is not so bad. I'm going to go ahead and publish it and connect it to my domain. So here in Cursor, we're going to do Control-C, Vercel, Prod, command not found. I'm gonna say debug with AI. I think we need to install, Vercel. So let's run that command. I always forget the steps of how to do something, but you can always ask AI. Okay. It gave me a scary response. Don't know what that means, so let's ask the chat. Okay. I'm gonna run this. Okay, it looks like it is doing what it needs to. And now, let's see, I think I have to log in still. Okay, set up and deploy. Yes. Let's log in. Let's log in with my email. I'm going to pause here as I log in. Okay, so now I'm logged in, so now I can push it to production. Okay, cool. So now it's uploading this entire site to Vercel, and I'll be able to connect the domain. Pretty sure that best practices say that you should also upload this to GitHub. So that is, just keep that in mind. You should also do that too. I usually do that with my other projects, and that's just a matter of connecting this. I'm not going to do that in the video right now, but it's pretty easy to figure out. It's just integrations. You log in again. So cool, it should be live here. So let's go open it. Awesome. And I'm going to go to Vercel actually. So here's Traveler Assist, what I just uploaded to Vercel, and it's live on one of their domains right now at travelerassist.vercel.app. But I can also go a step further and add my custom domain. So, oops. Okay, I'm going to do that. And now I'll go connect it from where I have it hosted. Change the DNS settings. It just, I think, it walks you through the whole process, so it's really easy. Let me go do that. Okay, great news. I was able to hook up the domain name, so let's test it out. Go to travelerassist.com. It's taking a little bit. It does say that it might take time to propagate globally. So, and that usually does happen. so I might check in on it a little bit later, but this is always a great sign. Okay, so I think that's about it. I mean, we just built an entire directory in the past 24 minutes from start all the way to finish. I didn't include the prompt building in this video because I didn't want to make it too long, but I do feel like that would be an important thing to share because I have a lot of tips and tricks behind that. My next steps for this directory is to actually populate it with real tools and at least do 5 for each category here, and then start to apply for the affiliate link programs for Skyscanner, Hopper, Booking.com so that I can get affiliate commission if someone lands. Alright, so I'm going to continue building this out. I'm going to be adding pages for optimizing SEO and building out an entire content strategy for this. This will be one of my build in public projects, so I'll be making more videos updating the progress of this directory, but if you have any questions about this build, I'd love to answer them, so feel free to comment below. I also have a community on School. It's called AI App Launchpad, and I'd love for you to join me over there, so I'll link it in my bio if you're interested. Anyways, thanks for watching, and stay tuned for more videos where I do live builds, answer your questions, and show you how you can use AI tools to build products fast. And if you made it this far, thank you for watching, and subscribe for more videos like this.